Hello, good evening. I can hardly wait for this moment. Lightning. Hallelujah. Isn't that wonderful? One of the reasons of many I love doing this is not only your comments are so rewarding and wonderful, and I really appreciate it. I really would like you to add your comments. And also on my timeline, I have to keep my timeline open because my website lady is uploading all my files, all these readings, to my website and to my YouTube channel. So I want to keep my timeline free. So if you do want to send me a picture or send me anything that's not related to my readings, just send it on Messenger. Even though I say I don't like Messenger, it'll be very convenient. And another reason why I really love what I'm doing right now is because I don't have to think. I don't have to think. And I've had a week where all I've had to do was think. My brain's tired. I think my hair's tired. I'm tired. But that's because I had to make so many decisions this week. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. And I give you today, to live in today's world with all the decisions you have to make. I mean, just taking care of me in a little apartment is exhausting. I could never have, I just don't feel like sometimes I'm living in the right place at the right time. Like I should still be back in the 50s and 60s and appreciate the simplicity of them. But I'm not thinking when I'm reading. I'm pouring out my heart, my writing. I'm sharing so much of me, and whatever comes out, comes out. I don't have to be politically correct. I don't have to. I read from my book, and I talk to whomever wants to listen. But I know that this story is not just about a love story. I've got a great love story that will be told to the world. This is about loss and grief and sadness and all the stuff you don't want to go through, but then you have the hope and you have the faith. There was a wonderful man on MSNBC last night doing an interview. He writes for The Atlantic. He's a staff writer. And he talked about COVID and how 1 million deaths, but each person that died might have 8 people in their internal world, their family or close friends, that grieved along with this person who passed. That's what I'm relating. With HIV, it wiped out my friends in the 80s and 90s. It took my friends out. It took my neighborhood out. And today to have long-term survivors of HIV, the great medications, I'm so grateful that I can share my loss at a time that was just horrible, with a time now to people who are not statistics. You're not just living with HIV. You're real and you're honest and you're warm and you're healthy and you're doing great. So this book is about love and about loss, but it's about hope and it's about faith. And this is about everybody who's ever been touched by HIV, who's managed to get through it, who's lost someone, who loves someone, and who is living with HIV. You are something. You matter to me. And that's what I'm saying. Whoever's on the other end of this, you matter to me. This story is about you. How do you like that for a preaching pulpit thing today? All right. Chapter 15, long-term plans and short-term goals. I gave you some of this yesterday. Oh, and I love this one comment. There was one comment she said to me, she said her keyboard, one of the chapters made her so crazy, her keyboard was drenched. That's when I didn't, I was a mess. And then the next thing I know, I reached over and I grabbed for a face mask to use as a tissue. So one of her posts was her keyboard was drenched because she was crying. And the next post after another, she said she hadn't laughed that hard since 2018 when I reached for that face mask to blow my nose in and to use as Kleenex. She said she laughed. Thank you. Laugh, cry, Go away, shut me down. I don't care. It's going to be on my website, and it's going to be everywhere, and it's going to be in a series, and it's going to be the biggest movie to hit. That's my 5 minutes of whatever. So I'm going to go back over this one because this is everybody's. Long-term plans, you've all made some. Short-term goals. So it's going to be a little redundant, but I have to get into the meat of this because some of you haven't been on before. But this will tell you what it was like going through a long-term illness at a time when they didn't know much about it. Quote, many times I didn't know if the truth was a lie or the lie was the truth. End quote. Dear Jeff, so as I said, I'm going to be redundant, but I have to talk about this. We faced the demanding challenges of your illness for 2 years. We succeeded because we never stopped compromising as problems and obstacles came our way. We learned that making plans would still be easy, but having them turn out the way we expected or anticipated would be another matter. Something once simple and fun now became extremely difficult or nearly impossible. We had to radically change our perception of what long-term versus short-term meant. The words daily living now took on a cruel and brutal new meaning. Planning something 3 months in advance might have to be canceled within 24 hours because without warning we could be faced with a crisis or medical emergency. We had to evaluate and question everything we wanted to do, and we never had the luxury of planning long-term again. We learned how to live day to day and moment to moment as everything around us changed drastically and quickly. Again, there will be some that isn't redundant, but there's going to be this little part is. I called Jeffrey Daniel Boone because even as a teenager, traveling was his passion. He loved planning trips and were always out visiting fun and interesting places, whether skiing a challenging mountain or sunning on a distant beach. You were exciting and different. After we married, you made it perfectly clear I was going to be your navigator. You took AAA books to bed. You took AAA books and maps to bed, falling asleep with pen and magic marker in hand. You went into a hypnotic state while making our hotel and restaurant reservations. You planned car trips to California, Seattle, and Canada, solely around restaurants, art galleries, and museums, and you bought tickets for everything. We went to Spain on our honeymoon. We visited Caracas, Europe, Mexico, and all the Caribbean islands. I spent 4 wonderful birthdays in a row in Hawaii. And that's what I said on the 5th time we were there on my birthday, well, the 4th time, he said, what do you want to do next year for your birthday? I said, I don't want to go to Hawaii. It's a long trip. You enjoyed every aspect of traveling and you loved sharing your exciting, adventurous life with me. My biggest decisions were what to wear and how many suitcases to take, and then you could do it. Take as much as you wanted. You planned our trip 6 months in advance, and for 23 years we never canceled or postponed one of them. You were known at airports, on the planes, and in the hotels and restaurants. Because of your work with the military and oil companies, we took many luxurious vacations on a fringe benefit, After the pneumonia in June 1992, it took you 6 months to recover and regain your strength. Even as you got stronger and were able to travel again, you still tired easily. It was obvious that you would not be able to travel the way you did before. This issue was one of the most devastating and depressing ones you had to face. We now took everything we did one day at a time. We had to be prepared. I stress this, prepared, organized, and never took any chances. We could have problems with the weather, eating and sleeping accommodations, car reservations, or airline postponements. Whether it was going to a movie that same day or planning a trip 3 months later, our plans could change quickly without warning. You got tired, nauseous, and had diarrhea for days. You spiked 104-degree fevers and would become delirious. Sometimes you couldn't eat, drink, or even breathe. You were taking several medications that had serious side effects. I know I'm talking to some of you. Your immune system was compromised and you were prone to numerous infections that could require immediate medical attention. This is where we now start. I was the one, praise God for the strength I had then. I was the one who had to find the doctors, hospitals, or make arrangements to get you home if you took ill. Before any trip, I packed a bag full of pills, creams, sprays, preventive, secondary prescriptions, and the referral names for other doctors. I carried extra supplies with us and wrote down everything in a journal. We kept an address book with your doctor's names and phone numbers. We started taking cruises to Bermuda and the Caribbean because they were safer and more controlled. The first time we took out cancellation insurance, it was a bitter reminder of your precarious condition. Cruising was not the way you wanted to travel, and I know you did this to make it easier for me. You never stopped wanting the spontaneous excitement of the life you once loved, but that effortless travel we used to enjoy had become a difficult task, both mentally and physically. Yeah, I'm talking to a whole lot of you. You may not know it yet, but I am. Just wait till this thing gets told around the world and comes out. You're going to be the ones saying, yes, we hung in there with her. By January 1993, so we're looking at, what, this was in June 92. I can't lose track of it, just go with me. You were strong enough to travel again. January 1993. We decided to go to New York for a week to visit my parents. Our flight was scheduled for March 15th. We would rent a car, stay in a motel apartment, and visit with family and friends. My parents loved you like a son and wanted to see you so badly. 2 days before the trip, you ran a low-grade fever and developed a dry, hacking cough. These symptoms could indicate the beginning of a simple cold or the start of pneumonia. My parents called stating it was bitterly cold and that a blizzard was expected. You insisted on going, and I got hysterical. I was petrified and screamed, quotation, "How can we go if you're getting ill?" question mark, end quote. You finally canceled the trip, but it was the first time we ever fought over travel plans. We did take our frustrations out on each other, and it was horrible. 3 days later, you developed a bronchial infection, but it wasn't pneumonia. We rescheduled for March 26th, and this time we made it. You looked wonderful, your attitude was incredibly positive, and no one other than my parents ever knew then you were ill. This has to be relating to so many of you, and I feel for you, because this brings back memories to me. But some of you at some point are going to face it. And I know COVID, I think that's why COVID hit me so powerfully, because so many of the same issues that people dealt with COVID, I dealt with HIV, which is why I didn't find COVID frightening. I was doing what I knew the doctors told me to do, but HIV to me was so frightening. COVID just was a parallel in a different place at a different time, but it's hit a lot of different people a terrible way. And the loss is a loss is a loss, and grief is grief. And it doesn't matter how you do lose, it's grief and you grieve. The trip, however, exhausted you, and we canceled the cruise for April. However, you started planning a trip to our favorite country, Italy. You wanted to be in Amalfi on May 4th for my 48th birthday. We went to Italy several times, and it was, if things had been different, I probably would be living there now. You wanted to be in Amalfi, which is on the southern coast, on the Mediterranean. Beautiful area. Please go. On May 4th for my 48th birthday. Sadly, we both knew this might be the last trip we would take. You made the arrangements, mapping out a 14-day motor trip, starting in Rome and ending in Venice. We would visit ancient, exciting cities, eat delicious foods, and spend romantic nights in charming, picturesque hotels. I'm reading. 2 days before the trip, I got frightened. Would this be too much for you? What would I do if you took ill in a country halfway around the world? I worried about fatigue and the demands of driving and sightseeing. We didn't speak the language, Italian. We would have a car with a standard shift that I didn't know how to drive. Would you be able to take care of me if I took ill? These are the questions you ask yourself. And there's no right answer. You just make decisions, you live with them, and you hope you made the right one. However, we arrived in Rome, and you felt better than you had in a while. The hotel was magnificent, and on May 4th, 1994, we were in Amalfi, Italy, under a breathtaking full moon. We strolled arm in arm down the small winding street to a quaint little family restaurant. You gave me a card, perfume, and said you loved me more than ever before. All my fears and horrible thoughts that haunted me before the trip were gone. We gazed into each other's eyes as we shared a delicious home-cooked meal. It was the ultimate adventure and something we had to prove to ourselves. I was in awe of your strength, attitude, and your love for life. It was the most beautiful birthday I ever had. Forgive me, it is one of those moments. It was magnificent. We're talking May 94. He passed in August. We're going to have some laughs in between. I promise you, it's not all going to be crazy. Some of it's still going to be crazy. Keep your Kleenex handy. I was always in awe, though, of his strength, his attitude, and his love for life. He never quit. He wouldn't quit. This guy, to the very end, fought. Here we go. A week later, while heading towards our hotel in Tuscany, we had a terrible scare. Our car overheated, and for 2 hours we were stranded in the middle of nowhere in Italy. It was cold. We didn't have any food or water. You were tired, coughing, and needed to take your medication. Finally, I'll never forget this, a truck driver stopped, and though he didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Italian, 1 hour later, our radiator was filled with coolant. God sent us an angel. We made it to the hotel 50 miles away. When we arrived, they didn't have our reservation. I pleaded with the English-speaking manager, telling him you were seriously ill. Eventually, he found us a small room, but stated the heater was broken. At this point, we didn't care. You were exhausted and needed to eat and rest. Rome was several hours away, and if you took ill now, I didn't know what I would do. The room was freezing. We held each other under several quilts, but never did sleep. However, in the morning, you felt better and we continued on our journey. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how I did it. Looking back now, even at this, I don't. You brought me beautiful clothes in Milan and magnificent glass in Venice. We visited the Isle of Capri, Florence, Pisa, and Siena. We laughed and cried a lot during those 2 weeks as we shared 25 years of memories. After returning home, we agreed it was the best trip we had ever taken. One more, and then I will finish it up and we'll go into chapter 16. I just think this is so important about the plans and things you have to do, and you don't know if you're doing it right. There's no book that tells you this decision is right, this is the way it's going to be. You don't know. Life is like that anyway. But this truck driver came along and put some coolant in our radiator, and we were able to get to the hotel. There was an English-speaking manager. The room was freezing. It was cold out. He was ill one moment, and then he felt better. It took weeks for you to regain your strength. Your resistance was low, and you had constant low-grade fevers, but you wanted another trip. You were the senior... Oh, forgive me, I got my dates in a way that all mixed up, but we're good. He took me again to Italy. That was the other thing. We went again. We wanted one more trip. It took you 2 weeks to regain your strength. Your resistance was low and you had a constant low-grade fever, but you wanted to take another trip. It wasn't 3 weeks before he was going to pass. We're not there yet. He was the senior class president at American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts, and it was your 25th year reunion. As president, you wanted to attend. We decided we would fly to Albany, visit my parents, and drive to Springfield. You reserved a suite at a hotel and sent out 25 invitations to fraternity brothers, inviting them to a private party on Friday night. You had lost weight, but when you got dressed up, you looked wonderful. We spent a few days with my parents and drove to Springfield on Friday. We stopped to get supplies for the party. By the time we got to the hotel, you had a violent attack of diarrhea and 102-degree fever. I thought you were getting a bacterial infection and begged you to cancel the party. I'm going to stop right here. You said you would not change your plans. That was Jeffrey. That was my husband. It would have seriously taken an act of God to get this man to change a travel plan, a dinner reservation, or anything to the ballet or the theater. He loved life. I was the one who had many more issues than he did. But I also was dealing with something. When I said we went to Italy, we went again. That one trip we went, yes, it was horrible in that respect that he did take ill on and off, but we managed. It was the next trip to Springfield, and then there was another trip to Italy. But the last trip to Italy that I'll get into at some point was the very last trip he could make. So, in closing, why this chapter is so important, that I know, as hard as it may seem, where you are right now, and you're not sure if what you're doing is right or wrong. I can tell you from experience at my age now, 30 years, I was 48 when he passed. I'm 76, so let's figure 30 years to keep me from thinking. That's why I said I'm tired of thinking. So let's say that 30 years later, I still don't know if the decisions I make are right or wrong many times. I pray about it. Sometimes I get clarity. Sometimes you just got to wing it, Sometimes you just got to say, what the? That's it. It's like in Risky Business with Tom Cruise. I still watch that movie over and over again, where he says, sometimes you just got to say, what the? And that's what you got to do. You just throw up those 52 cards. Wherever they fall, they fall. I will say thank you for watching and listening. These files, all of my Facebook posts to date, will be on my website on SusanMintz.com under the books page. And on my YouTube channel, she's uploaded the files. I will wait till the end of the book to upload the rest, because we're a little over halfway, so we'll do the rest when we're finished. But please check out SusanMintz.com and my books. Please don't ask me real questions about what I should do for you. I won't. I'll say what I did, and I can give you an opinion. But I'm not in the advice column. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pastor. I'm not an advice person. I can give you an opinion and tell you how I did it, but you're on your own journey, and that's what I say. I don't judge. Don't judge anybody. You're on your own journey. You make your own choices, and you live with them. But I will say to all of you, for your time, your blessed, blessed time that you've given me every day, and the sharing you've done with people, that I've checked out you new people. I know who you are. So, as we close tonight, I want to say my usual. I think some of you know what it is. And I always raise my face up because I do look good. I can't imagine what I look like on a big screen right now. I'm doing it on a phone. I don't like what I look like. I'm thinking, if you got a 17.3-inch laptop and you're looking at me, whoa, you're saying, lady, you need to get some shots. Shalom. Hello. Shalom, goodbye. And shalom, peace. And Shabbat Shalom tonight to my Jewish brothers and sisters. Make this a blessed Shabbat Shalom. The Sabbath is sacred, whether celebrated on a Friday night and Saturday, or on a Sunday, or whatever day you celebrate. Your day of rest, your day of peace. It's yours. And you know I'm going to say, be kind, be patient, and call someone and tell them you love them while you can. I'm so glad I had the old-fashioned phone. I learned how to talk on it. But I'm grateful that I can even do this on this little thing. God bless you all. I have to finish.